Hey, what's up, you guys? ShartimusPrime, doing another live stream here on the Russ Toy Reviews YouTube channel. And tonight I have a special guest, Boognice10, who will be joining us very shortly. Just one announcement to make really quick. Oh shoot, wait, that's the wrong name. I had it written down right over here, and then I misplaced it. All right, I'll get back to that note later on. I had a couple of people that needed to claim some prizes, so I'll get back to that later on in the stream. I thought I had it right here. Anyway, let's basically, I had a giveaway for these two figures right over here, and you guys still have not claimed your prizes, and I've announced it 2 different times already, so I just want to make sure everybody picks up their stuff. Okay, all right, without further ado, here we are bringing in the special guest for the night, the one and only articulated comic book artist. Actually, the original articulated comic book artist, definitely not the only one, but here he is, the man, the legend. We have Boognice10.
Yo, what's
How
good,
you doing?
man?
I'm doing good, bro. How are you?
I'm good, man. Can't complain.
Good to see you. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you. Actually see you.
Yeah. It's been, I think the last time we actually talked face to face like this was probably the SharkCon last year, right?
I think it was during the pandemic, because I remember seeing that video kind of recently, and I was like, I had a fucking afro and like a fake beard. I look nuts.
I think that's about right. That makes sense. That was during our deep COVID times, and I think
my daughter actually had looked up the video or found the video in some way, and we were both laughing at
it. Nice. So speaking of getting out there and everything, you're able to attend New York Comic Con this year, and I'm extremely jealous, but at the same time, I know it wasn't the same just from seeing the footage and everything. And you and I talked about it a little bit already.
You definitely did. You definitely didn't miss much, man. It was a little depressing, honestly. You know, most of the companies that we probably care about or our audience cares about weren't really there like that, aside from like Tamashi, I guess, and a couple others. But, you know, and it wasn't obviously much going on in terms of exclusives and stuff, aside from Tamashi and a couple others. It was dead, man. Some aspects of it was good, though, because you got to kind of like move around and leisurely, and it didn't feel like a job, you know. Kind of was just hanging out, so it was okay in that regard, you know.
Yeah, most of the time, you're kind of running around like crazy, like me, and you know, most of us that are posting news content up during these events,
exactly.
You know, it keeps you running around. So with it being a little bit more laid back, it may have been, I could imagine it being a lot more chill and relaxed. And but then, like, at the same time, like, I'm sure you can notice like not as many people being out there and everything, right? Like, as far as, you know, meeting the usual
you know, they had the COVID restrictions, and you were supposed to be vaccinated or have gotten a recent test, I think within 2 days or something like that. But it wasn't like super duper strict, I guess. But, you know, for the most part, everybody was doing what they were supposed to do, and people had on masks and stuff like that. So, you know, it was cool. It was chill. I took the kids. I took my daughter and my nephew. So, you know, that aspect of it was cool.
God, cannot wait to take my girls to a Comic-Con, because it's my oldest is 4 years old now. So it's starting to get to that point where it's becoming more fun, and I'm super lucky that instead of having to read like little kids book stories to her at night, I'm reading Spider-Man comics. And the only thing is that Green Goblin terrifies her. She can't understand what's wrong with Norman Osborn and why he would be so mean.
You on the right track, though. I was doing the same thing when Kendall was real young like that. And then, you know, once they start reading, then you get to take a break and make them read to you, you know?
Oh, great. I look forward to that. Yeah, when they start babysitting me and stuff.
Right, exactly.
Take care of me. Yeah, man. But I wanted to get into pretty much everybody here knows who you are and everything, but just in case there's a couple of stragglers, you know, a couple people that, you know, stragglers sounds mean, but you know what I'm saying, latecomers.
Yeah.
Like, give us a little, brief backstory on Boognice10's YouTube channel and articulated comic book art, and some of the inspiration for you getting so deep into action figure photography and turning it into a huge, massive thing now, which has just been crazy as hell to witness from this end.
No doubt. Well, I feel like I just I feel like I just told the story. I guess I'm on the circuit here anyway.
Oh.
But
but you can summarize as much as you want, because I think they know you.
But yeah, I'm a lifelong collector. I've been collecting my whole entire life. I started really getting into toys and displaying at a very young age. The original, like, well, not the original, but the 3/4-inch GI Joes from back in the day were what really kind of like was my go-to when I was a kid. And I could remember back in the days, those commercials for the GI Joe toys used to be so elaborate with all of the play sets and everything like that. So again, from a real young age, I was like really interested in like dioramas and setting up displays and stuff like that. But obviously at that age, you don't really have the means or the, the know-how to build or do anything in that regard. So, I would do setups and stuff like that. Me and my brother would set up stuff, but it was, obviously very modest in comparison to what's going on today. But yeah, I was collecting, and then I guess maybe before high school or through high school, I kind of, fell back on collecting. Obviously, there's other things that's more important to a teenage boy at that time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I guess after high school, I guess this was maybe like 2 or 3 years after high school. Anyway, when Marvel Legends came out, I got back into collecting heavy. I was collecting probably like a year or so before that, when that like Spider-Man Classics superposable Spider-Man came out, or what was superposable for that time.
Right.
And when I saw Marvel Legends, I was like, yo, this is it. This is what I've been waiting for. I've always been wanting like domestic figures to be more articulated and just give you more room to do stuff in terms of displays. And so I started collecting Marvel Legends, getting into Marvel Legends. And at that time, early on, I remember every single day, like literally, I had got my first PC around this time too. So I remember every single day kind of like searching the internet for other Marvel Legends collectors and other people that may have been into like displaying, because I didn't really see too many people actually setting up displays and like really posing figures and really, trying to do it from that angle, really playing with your toys, basically. And finally, I got on YouTube, and I came across Tony the Beaner's channel, actually, who you and I both know well.
Yeah.
And when I saw his stuff, I was like, oh shit, this dude gets it. This guy knows what's going on. Like, just the way he was posing the figures, and it was so dynamic, and it was so, similar to what I was doing and a few other people at the time. And then I came across your channel actually too. I think you had just been on YouTube for maybe like 4 or 5 months before that or something like that. But I saw your Spider-Man setup, with the figures on the ceiling and stuff like that. I was like, oh shit, this dude knows what it is too. Like, he can pose figures as well. And so I created a YouTube, and I put up some a video that's still up now of my collection with that stupid like rock and roll music and shit. And at that point, I'm pretty sure Century was on YouTube too. But at that point, everybody started taking notice of other people's channels that were into Marvel Legends, and slowly but surely, we just kind of formed a little community. It might have been like 20 or 30 of us at this early stage, and a big part of that was just posing, just putting together different displays and trying to mimic things from the comic books and stuff like that. And at one point, we started calling our setups art. And then I think at one point I said, all right, this is articulated art. And at another point, it just popped in my head, articulated art, just a name, and really like, I don't know, do something distinctive for that community to make us kind of stand out. And the name took. And after that time, a lot of people were just pretty much just calling their setups ACBA, and then integrating the comic book cutouts. I remember that video that I put out saying, I'm not sure where this will go or how far we could take it, but I think if we really, start incorporating these cutouts into the displays, it would really make them pop, and so on and so forth. and the community just mushroomed out from there, man. It was just a snowball effect. More people started getting into Marvel Legends. More people started getting into displaying, and we started going to Comic Cons and stuff as a group. You know, back in those days, we were really getting on Dwight and Dave's nerves. Back in those days, we were like going nuts at the convention, and even back then, I was pushing for them to like take display artists more seriously and say, yo, y'all should start incorporating some of this stuff into your marketing and like all of that. Very early on, we were doing that. But anyway, we got off of YouTube. Well, we didn't get off of YouTube, but we migrated from YouTube over to Facebook. And that's when things really took off, because that's when a lot of like artists from all over the place from different mediums were coming together in the Facebook group and basically sharing tips and tricks. And that's what really started to form like a lot of the terminology around the movement. And, you know, just a lot of artists started coming up from that very early time in the Facebook group. And literally everything that is happening today in terms of the popularity of display art and toy photography, ACBA, started with that small little group of us back in the day on YouTube. That was originally the Marvel Legends community, and a lot of articulated artists came out of there, and they were able to show the ropes to a lot of up and coming people, and so on and so forth. The cycle continues. So at this particular stage in the game, even though it's still like in the infancy, you and I are like fucking elderly at this particular point, because, you know, like you said, there's people that don't even really know the history or really know what's what, or even know who the fuck I am at you know, in some instances or whatever. But literally all of the shit that's happening right now is a result of us being a pain in the ass to Hasbro and to the companies, and really just pushing this and pushing this and pushing this, basically. And it is where it is now, where you could go on Instagram or any platform right now and see so much toy photography, so many wonderful artists, so many people doing so many innovative things. It's wonderful. And I've said this a few times, but really this was all just based on my desire to like have some people to play with, basically. Like, you understand? Like, like that's really what it all boils down to.
Enjoy and share the hobby, right?
Right. Exactly. So, so yeah, it's been a wonderful experience to see this thing grow and to see the fruits of the labor, I guess, so to speak.
From
yeah,
my point of view, it came across to me that when we first started talking to Dwight, I felt like he was taken aback by how serious collectors were about this. Like, I honestly feel like in those dark days of Marvel Legends, it was ready to die off. Like, it was ready to go. I almost felt like it was a thing that Hasbro bought off just on a whim. Let's do a couple of waves, see how it does. If it fails, then we'll move on to do something else, whatever.
You could tell that they weren't even excited about that shit in those dark days. Like, they were like depressed and shit. That shit was coming out in the work, the figures and shit. Like, you know,
yeah. And I don't think and I think there was like miscommunication with, because it kind of transferred over. Because when we got to, I mean, if you look at the first couple of waves, and I know you already know this, but like the first couple of waves, a lot of those figures were sculpted by Dave Cortez. And I remember like, you know, there being some kind of like discrepancy on how some of the figures came out compared to how they're originally supposed to come out and whatnot, and how things just, so it didn't seem like things were streamlined, or all the like all the parts of the Hasbro machine in the Marvel department weren't really fully up and running smooth.
Right. Yeah, you could see it throughout the whole early Toy Biz line and shit, because the that's one thing that I always say, is that the figures look so different from wave to wave, or like, you know, it wasn't like this like cohesive sort of like thing like it is right now. Like, everything looks really good together. They've been doing a good job of you know, making things look good together, like, you know. So
and I feel like they really listen. Like, that's one thing that's always kind of, you know, it's like when you're talking to somebody and they just have deaf ears, that creates a lot of frustration, and you start getting really angry. I start getting angry at that. I mean, that's kind of
angry. Yeah, no doubt.
and it felt that way at the beginning, and over time they just keep listening more and keep doing more and more. So it's like the frustration. I mean, would you say you still have that kind of frustration with them? I mean, because there's always something that they could improve upon, which is like one thing I really like about your interviews is that you really dig in and ask a lot of like detailed questions from them, which I want to get more into in a little bit. But
Yeah.
how would you say you feel about how they've been receptive to the fan base? Like how has that changed from your point of view?
Well, I mean, we really basically just wore them down. So like we just kept like chipping away at them, basically, like But I do think that they are Marvel Legends in particular are super receptive. I think they're probably the the crew that is the most like receptive to the fans. They're the most like um, trusting of the fans and shit like that. Like we guide them in a lot of directions. It's this wild symbiotic relationship. You know what I mean? Like they expect us to show them how to like get into this money every fucking year, basically, and that's what we do. And you know what I mean? And we get the product that we want, basically. Like we get the characters, the figures that we want, and shit like that, and they make a lot of fucking money. That's what it is.
Right? Yeah, yeah. I mean, they make their money off of it, but I mean, at the same time, like I see it as art. I see action figures as art. So
For sure.
one of those things where it's like, if, when bands come around or when your artist is doing what you want them to do, I feel okay giving them my money because I'm happy with what I'm getting out of it. Right. That's basically what I'm getting at. But if I thought it was awful or if there were figures that I really didn't want, I mean, I actually spend money on some figures that I honestly don't want. I'll spend money on them just so I could review them.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. That's the other thing I was going to say too is that I know we are like we love Marvel Legends and shit like that, but the other thing that this has done, the popularity of like displaying and stuff like that, and more people buying figures and stuff like that, is made the market really competitive too. So there's so many other options out there too. Like you know what I mean? If Marvel Legends isn't like doing it for you in one particular area, there's something else out there. There's SHF, there's Mafex, there's McFarlane, there's like NECA, all these different companies and shit like that where you could kind of like get your fix in certain areas,
What kind of trips me out when you bring up all those import companies, and I mean, I honestly think Marvel Legends have changed all the action figures because for a long time I've been saying
you on your MAGA shit right now. It's American. Fuck that, huh?
Wait, what?
You're on your MAGA shit right now. You like fuck that. Let's American companies.
No, I'm good with all the Japanese companies or whatever. But I mean, for real, like not just the import companies, but Mattel, and we're seeing Jada Toys jump in on this. Jazzwares has jumped in on this. Marvel Select has kicked up their articulation like crazy. Like I think the success of Marvel Legends has kind of paved the way for everything else. We got Hasbro, with the Star Wars and the Power Rangers and the freaking Ghostbusters. Like everything is, I mean, as super articulated as it can be compared to how it was before.
Exactly. And that aspect of it is what was really has been really awesome and intriguing for me and shit. Like I said, even as a really young kid, I was always just like, yo, I want the figures to be able to move better. Like, at that stage, I didn't really think about it as I want the figures to be more articulated or like, the terminology wasn't really there. But I'm just like, even as a really young kid, I'm like, I wish I could like move this guy more. So yeah, in terms of engineering, that has been one of the biggest pluses to me. I didn't really answer that question, but whatever.
Every figure has ankle pivot now, and I feel like that's because of if that wasn't for the success of Marvel Legends, then I don't think it would have happened and transferred. I mean, with the import figures, yeah, that was already in there, but I mean, like with with it transferring over to like Mattel and now McFarlane Toys, and I mean, we have McFarlane articulating their figures. Maybe not the very best articulation.
Right, but even that was a big step for him, for sure, no doubt.
Yeah, that was a big step. One thing I want to do this live stream is it's been mentioned to me that people have questions. So if people want to ask us questions and stuff, I'll highlight.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
Because I don't want to ignore the chat.
I love connecting with the people. Again, that takes it back to the beginning. It was really just a way to connect with other people that were into it, like I was into it, basically. So I always love to chop it up with the people and answer questions, and I'm always in my comment section and trying to get with the people, basically.
Yeah. That's one reason why your questions are so good when you're talking to the Marvel Hasbro team, because I think you fish for questions from the community. Like you're actually like you dig in, and maybe people will think of things that you may not have thought of yourself that could help ask a question or lead to another question. Let's see what we got here from Thirsty. You can tell DST cares more about their Marvel Select figures than they do about their other lines, because it's the only line they truly have heavy competition with. Yeah. But even their Star Wars figures have gotten more interesting too. Well, I mean, they just took on Star Wars, but like their other select stuff, like Rocketeer, like those figures have pretty good articulation also. Marvel Legends brought me back to American figures. I was obsessed with SH Figure Arts, but man, $60 to $100 was killing me there. These Marvel Legends were just $20 to $25. That's one thing I want to ask you is, what do you feel about the prices going up? What do you think?
I mean, people complain and shit like that, but again, $25 is not nuts. We just saw the last person say $60, $100 for some of the import shit. That's standard. You know what I mean? So $25 is still a fraction of the cost that you would pay for something import quality. But time goes by, prices, everything has to go up. It's not like it's gonna, like, you could still go get and sometimes you actually can catch a wild sale on Amazon or Target or some shit where you could get back to the heydays of $8 Marvel Legends and shit like that. It's possible.
There was a Lady Deadpool selling for hella cheap for like the Sauron Wave Lady Deadpool. I could have sworn I saw that for like $10.
So yeah, the price increase it's just part of the game. It's not, I don't feel too bad
like being gouged by it, especially when the quality in the face, the photoreal tech and all that is matching that of the import figures. That makes me feel really good.
For sure.
Omega says, Boog, teach Shartimus how to ask gotcha questions when you interview the big three again.
Gotcha questions.
Yeah, help me out over here. I'm dying, man. Everybody's leaving comments on every one of my interviews. Boognice10 is way better without even watching it first.
When you really get into your groove with trying to sit and interview people and shit like that, you realize that you don't really want to ask gotcha questions. You want to ask open-ended sort of leading questions, or things that'll get them going off into a tangent, and then maybe you could get them just by having casual conversation and shit like that. Like if it's a good rapport and you guys are just going back and forth, then you may actually be able to extract some information by just like they say, it's easier to get flies with honey than salt or some shit like that. I forget how it goes. Sugar.
It's like but
you're not trying to go in there and make them upset with you, because then you really won't get any shit, So you're just trying to have a good, cool, casual conversation and stuff,
Note taken. I'm going to start with a wider net and narrow in. I actually do tend to go narrow because, I feel like if I mention the names of some of these characters, like Cardiac, I really want a Cardiac figure, and I'll try to Cardiac, but then eventually
you be wasting time sometimes, man. That's what you be. That's where you go wrong. You get in there and start talking about some other shit.
What the fuck? What am I talking about? People's shoes or something?
I don't know. This last one, I think you had said something about it was your daughter's birthday or something. I don't know. I just felt like you wasted.
Oh yeah, when I
Again.
I mean, that's because I was embarrassed from that disappearance of the.
Oh, and on the
I
live
know.
stream.
Yeah, I brought that up because
Forgot about that.
I felt a little shy about, or not
Mhm.
shy, but embarrassed about having the empty seat there because
Yeah.
that that didn't really look good. Oh yeah, way to show your enthusiasm. We invited
Yeah.
you to this thing for you to just dip out, but
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I'm always working on it, and it's just gotten to a point where it's like a reputation now. But I
Mm.
think some people left comments like that without even watching it because I did have some pretty hard hitting questions.
I mean, that's the nature of this shit. You know, people gonna.
They're gonna assume before watching and just say like, oh, but
Not only
let's
that,
go back and watch. I have really good questions on that one. I do have some really good questions, and I bitch about some shit there too. Bitch, talked about the knee joints, the ankle pivot on the Sentinel, and all that.
you know what? I think in this last round of interviews, though, I think they were pretty strategic in letting out some information in each person's interview, and I don't know if that could be attributed to any one of us being like good. I think they really just kind of played us in that regard, and like because they want to see our questions beforehand, not played us in a bad way, but just like it was strategic how they did it and how they were able to reveal something in each one of our interviews. Basically, there was
reveal shit in mine.
no, they gave information. They definitely gave each one of us something for sure.
Well, actually, I feel like I did walk away with something from mine, and now I can't remember it off the top of my head.
I watched everybody's interviews, and I felt like they were pretty strategic and how they did that. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking way too deep into it, but I feel like a company as big as Hasbro, they probably covering all the bases. You know what I mean? I wouldn't put it past them. We talking about tech nerds getting everything down to the decimal and every type of like social interaction and all of that type of shit. Like that's the time we live in terms of like data and like what I'm saying, like information, like figuring out all of that shit. I think they got it all figured out, man.
Wow. I wouldn't put it past them because it's a smart marketing strategy going with the YouTubers and like we have platforms where they're getting advertised for free and all that stuff
All day long, 24 hours a day, free advertisement. You know what I'm saying?
Shit, that's one. Wait, let's read Sentry's comment over here. Who I think his ACBA game has gone through the roof. Holy shit!
Who's that? Spence? You talking about?
Yeah, Sentry.
Oh yeah, 1,000%, 1,000%.
What's your guys' thoughts on the bigger toy companies tackling actual dioramas, like what NECA did with its city dioramas? You guys think Hasbro would ever get the push to make something like that? Ooh, that's a really good question, Sentry Productions. I don't think they would ever jump into that.
I don't think they need to. Like, you know what I mean? I think it's like they kind of in a way still control how that game is played because they've got all the display artists and shit like that. Like they don't really gotta like even get into that. I mean, they could, you know what I mean, if they want to just like
they really wanted to
play Monopoly with this shit, they could, but like I don't see that they necessarily need to. But I think on some level we may see them do it because I think they might explore something like that with a HasLab thing,
Oh, you think they would go with that? I think that would be like one of the last things they would go with because there's so many big like Quinjet or Blackbird or Giant Man, other Celestials.
I mean, it doesn't
huge.
It doesn't even have to be like $350 worth of diorama shit for a HasLab thing. They could even like do something like Black Series just did with the bar little playset, like smaller playsets and stuff like that.
Yeah, that would be.
They could explore that first, and I think that they probably will. I think they'll probably do something like that on a smaller scale to kind of test the numbers and run the data and shit like that, and then they'll see if a HasLab, a bigger HasLab campaign, something diorama-ish would be lucrative,
What do you think they would do for the next HasLab? What do you think is the number one most likely project they would tackle on?
Giant Man is up there for me.
Me too. Yeah,
It's so like
more than anything.
It's so easy, and like honestly, like yeah, I don't even want to give away ideas and shit like that, but like it's man, they could do something tremendous with Giant Man. Like, you know what I mean? Like we could be done with Giant Man for like the next 10 years and shit from a HasLab campaign as far as like tiers, different costumes, like, you know what I mean, of just all Giant Man and Wasp if they want.
So many characters. I mean, with just one body mold,
right?
They reuse the hell out of that thing.
Well, I'm saying some like different tiers though, like the main tier could be a large 32-inch Giant Man or whatever, and like a class his like Giant Man uniform, the uniform that they did for the Toy Biz version or something like that. And then the lower tier could be like Goliath, like old school, like Avengers. You know, Goliath is larger than the average man, but not like 10 stories high and shit, and his Goliath uniform and shit. And then they could do another add-on of him in one of his like, you know, other costumes for a 6-inch figure. They could do a little miniature Wasp. They could do miniature Ant-Man, ants. They could do all types of shit. You know what I mean?
Are you imagining like kind of like how they had like Bastion and the female Sentinel, like all packed into one big ass box? Exactly. So you're imagining a 32-inch figure, then probably like I want to say close to like 13 inches for
right,
like
Serta's size or something like that. Exactly.
Yeah, somewhere around that scale. Mm-hmm. And then and then some 6-inch figures in there, maybe
easy. That's easy money, bro.
Wow. And then they would be able to hang on to that body mold and reuse. And I'm thinking from a manufacturer's point of view, you could, you know, repaint it. We have all kinds of other giant characters that could use.
You could do Goliath, like Black Goliath, you know what I mean, at the 32-inch scale.
Yellow Jacket. You can get Yellow Jacket.
Yep.
Yeah. And you could do a Hawkeye Giant Man, or was it Hawkeye Goliath? I can't remember if he went by Goliath. Man, I forgot. I think. God damn it. Clint Barton's Goliath? Damn it. Now I want to look it up. So, someone
do, Atlas.
They could do Atlas.
Yeah, quite a few. What was the other dude that's part of the Shi'ar crew? One of the like Super Guardians or whatever. That's a side changing dude. I forget his name. But there's one with that team. You know, there's quite a few like
giant characters. He was Goliath. Okay, yeah. It was Clint Barton Goliath.
Oh, he was Goliath. All right,
yeah. I wasn't 100% on that. But there's that's where Giant Man is where I'm thinking more than anything else. That's what I'm definitely hoping for. Have you I know I'm switching topics away from Hasbro, but I don't really see you talk about McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse stuff much, right?
I don't buy that shit. I said I don't buy that shit.
Oh, you're not into it at all, huh?
No,
you know, have you messed with any of them, or
it's like a few things that like keep me away from it personally, like for my personal collection or shit that I like to display with or whatever. It's the 7-inch scale, you know, I'm not really messing with that. The like, there is articulation, and obviously, like we talked about this, it's good for McFarlane, who is used to not giving you nothing but like 4 cuts or some shit like that. Mm-hmm. So the articulation is definitely better, but there's a lack of articulation. There's the fact that it's 7-inch scale, and also it's DC. I'm not really like a huge DC fan, like, you know, so
especially especially with how deep some of the characters they get with some of the characters. Like
it's a lot of fucking Batman too.
A lot of fucking Batman. But you know, he sells, and Jokers too. A lot of Jokers and everything.
3 Jokers in this last wave, right?
yeah. Which I only have 2 out of the 3 of them. I think I did. Yeah, I did do a video on that. There's my biggest gripe with those figures. So you don't have any, or you picked 1 or 2?
Well, I've definitely had a few. I opened a few.
Okay.
You know, so I'm not like totally in the dark. And my brother buys his son, my nephew, those figures all the time too. So I've actually checked out a bunch of his figures just to kind of like look at and mess around with and shit. So I respect the sculpt on quite a few of them, and I've seen quite a few things where I was like, oh shit, this is actually pretty nice or whatever. But I'm just not a fan of the scale, the universe, and the articulation is just okay.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I like the sculpts and paint apps on those more than anything else. I feel like the aesthetics of them is the thing that pops more than anything. But
yeah, it's not trash. I'm not saying that it's
no, I feel you.
garbage,
It's just the plastic choice. I can't stand. So Hasbro uses a different plastic in their joints, right? Like they like with the Tigra figure that just came out.
I don't have her yet.
You don't have her yet? Okay. Like when you get her, you'll see the joints are like a slightly different color orange than the rest of the limbs, and that's common. Like with I think it was like the what figure was it that had the screwed up knees? I think it was the Ronin figure, the Endgame Ronin figure. How like the gummy knee issue.
Yeah.
They use a softer plastic in those joints because it helps with mobility. So I think they use PVC, and then like the harder parts are ABS. But I think McFarlane uses an ABS PVC that's more on the ABS side, where like everything is stiff. So it's like moving all those joints. Like sometimes you really need two hands to like get a double jointed knee going. Whereas like sometimes it's kind of fun to pose figures where you're like, you're holding them by the feet, and then you just can like get them all into that pose.
Right. Yep.
While they're kind of standing a little bit, and then you can let it go.
Especially if they're smaller scale too. It's a little easier to do that shit, But
that's true also, yeah. But you can't really do that with the McFarlane Toys figures. You definitely have to kind of like set it all up first, and then try to find the right gears that the ankles are supposed to sit on and everything like that.
But the one thing that I, again, just like kind of getting back to the essence of all this for me is that like kind of living vicariously through others and seeing other people display with those figures, they photograph really fucking well. Like, you know what I mean? Like a lot of those figures look amazing in photos and stuff like that. So it's just like, I don't got to buy this shit. I don't got to own it to actually still appreciate it and enjoy it, from my vantage point, from my seat, you know what I mean? So, so I'm not like, just from the like appreciation side of it all, like there's a place for all of these people. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter. Even like some of the wrestling shit, which I'm not really into, is just like, I still appreciate kind of going back to my childhood and seeing some of those pictures and like, all of this shit is like, it's wonderful. I'm just having a good time, just enjoying the art of it all anyway. So
that's one thing that's also going back to ACBA that I love seeing is like different franchises and everything. It's just like a huge mix. And like once in a while I see Transformers in there. I'll see an Optimus Prime. I'm like, wow, oh, that's so fucking sick. Like, damn, I wouldn't have seen that. I actually wanted to peep on the Instagram right now. Look at some pictures with you.
All right, that's what's up. Yeah, let's do it.
Because this is actually an idea Charlita1 brought up to me, and I figured out, the first time I do this, I should probably do it with Boog. Why not? Which is, she was like, you should do reactions like to articulated comic art, like start looking at stuff and just talk about it. So
yeah, all right.
That's one thing I was thinking about doing.
We do a little segment on our show with the looking at photos from the past week and people that have tagged like what's a grind on or something like that. And yeah, I actually just did that on another appearance that I was on too. It seems to be a pretty, I guess, common thing for some.
Oh, okay. Damn. All right. See, I thought Charlita1 thought of it all by herself.
I mean, if it's the first time doing it on your stream, then it's still all good.
Yeah.
What better way to kick it off, right?
Yeah. Let's do it. So I got a window over here. Boom. I don't know who this person is supposed to be specifically, but I loved this picture.
Yeah,
I thought this was great. When we get a little meta with the ACBA, I thought I think it's fantastic. And and I just realized right now we got the Watcher in the background.
Right. that adds to the whole thing, man. The layers to this, the depth. This is a guy named Rafi, actually, Rav Naf on Instagram. But yeah, that's actually him.
Okay, so
Like
this
a
is
custom head sculpt of himself and shit. So
nice.
yeah, this was real clever, man. Real funny. I love it.
Yeah, this. Oh my god, the bookshelf, getting all the little prints and everything for the comic books back there.
Yeah.
Holy shit! And how do you find? Well, I guess like they're not. I guess the Batmobile and the Batman aren't perfectly to scale, but you know it works enough where you could really.
Maybe he's about to do a perspective shot or some shit.
Yeah. He's gonna make it work. So you can follow, and then I'm trying to zoom in right here on his username so everybody can see right there. All right, so you guys could screen cap it as we go through them. And then, oh yeah, I saw this one too. This one I liked.
Yeah, this is real cool. Right off the heels of the Spider-Man trailer.
Oh yeah, that's right. I want to talk about that with you a little bit too.
Yeah, so this is real cool. This is Shoot Toys on Instagram. Shoot.toys. He's got a wonderful
great perspective.
He's got a wonderful like toy room, his space where he shoots his pictures and where all this stuff is set up and stuff. It looks so good, so clean. Nice. But yeah, putting out a lot of stuff. This is kind of his style with these sort of like this sort of color or the hue that he shoots in. A lot of his pictures kind of look like this, almost like comic bookish, you know. I mean, that's the thing. But
it looks cinematic to me. It looks really cinematic.
Very much so. Very much so.
This is like the Marvel Legends Avengers movie base right here, and I don't know what he did.
Marvel Select.
Marvel Select. I mean,
yeah. I think that's probably a monitor background.
Yeah. I love what people are doing with monitors. I've tried doing that too, and I just suck so bad at getting.
Yeah, it takes a little practice. I was just taught, again, another thing that's just great about the community and sharing tips and tricks and learning from each other and stuff like that. I was just told that it's best to put the brightness down very low when you're taking a picture with the monitor, and then just adjust from the camera. You know, so when I get to a permanent spot where I have my setup area and everything all in one room and shit, I definitely want to have a monitor set up in there. And I was also told that a lot of people are just using a monitor strictly and not even using poster paper, just having, you know, whatever color you want on a monitor instead of switching out poster paper and shit, and that shit works too. So
okay, just leaving it there all the time.
Yeah. You know,
this is from Megatron Bow 10.
Yeah, I always fuck his name up, but I like a lot of his stuff as well. Always very he's got a good eye, always real like creative, and you know, I always say that you could like really get a peek into somebody's like psyche, into their like mind and like how they think and like their humor and their like cynicism or whatever it is about them, just by looking at how they display and shit like that. And you know, I like a lot of his stuff. He does a lot of like horror stuff and stuff too, but a lot of G.I. Joe stuff. I think originally this was like one of his like B-side shots, and then he just utilized this one as like the main shot because a lot of people like this one better than what he thought was going to be his original shot. So again, a lot of that shit comes out of the group, the ACBA Facebook group. It's basically like a training ground, you know. That's what it's become, or what it's been from the very beginning. So you know, when you in there and you rubbing elbows with literally some of the best artists in the world, you know. So it's like it's the equivalent to us of being able to like shoot around with Michael Jordan every day and shit, like, you know what I mean? Like, you that close to some of these people that are like giants in our little world of displaying and shit, you know?
You're gonna pick up some skills hanging out.
Yeah, you're gonna pick up something for sure. This is my man Al Chang right here, Toy Soldier Photography.
this dude's been around forever, man.
Yeah, Ao Cheng is he won one of the ACBA tournaments actually.
Nice.
So he's definitely got some chops, and he's actually went to school for film or cinematography or whatever the case may be. So I guess you could kind of say Al is a professional, you know, and utilizing those skills and those things that he learned at a fucking university and taking wonderful toy shots, you know.
Wow.
So again, that's just just lending to all of these people from all of these different walks of life and all of these like non-traditional artists or artists in different mediums coming together for this brand new sort of like fresh art form that is ACBA, you know. So
yeah, no, I love that, and he's probably sharing all that information and everything with other people. So like,
for sure, I'm sure he's probably
the
telling
community go along with it, right? So
I'm sure he's probably told people in his classes about toy photography, about ACBA and shit like that too. Like,
yeah, going both ways with it.
Yeah.
Jake the Snake 912 over here with some Motu.
Some Motu action. I think this is this like a small scale Motu?
No, this is the He-Man Revelations figures.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. That's a He-Man Revelations. Did you happen to see that Netflix show?
Yeah, I watched it. It was pretty good. I enjoyed it.
Okay. Yeah, there's like a lot of love-hate. It's like, oh, it should have been, you know, He-Man and no Teela, or not so much Teela, but He-Man was in every episode. So I don't, you know, like, I think people are just tripping off of like just
you know, I'm not looking for like people act like the old He-Man was like really good. You go back and you watch that shit now, it's like some of the most awful shit you ever see in your life. Like
it's silly, but what really screwed things up was that 2000X show. That show's
I didn't get into that. I didn't watch that at all. So
yeah, I haven't watched all of it. I've watched a bit of it, and it's actually pretty badass. Like you should really check it out. It's pretty fucking sick. The animation's dope, and the storytelling's way better. Wow, damn, that I don't know. They did such a good job on these TMNT figures over here that like you get some really good photography going. It just looks so fucking real.
So authentic. Yeah. I mean, that's
so fucking real. Damn.
That's one thing that NECA is very good at is their scopes and paint applications and just the realism in their figures. They also photograph very, very well. Yeah, man, they photograph really, really nice. CNC figure photography here, outdoor shot. Again, another aspect of what I guess originally we would call simple toy photography, just kind of taking a figure outside and just shooting outside and shit without having to like set things up in a diorama and fabricate all your own light and stuff like that. This is a very more like sort of simplistic way of shooting, but not really, because it is still pretty hard to catch the light in the right way or be out at the right time of day and shit. There is obviously still some real skill associated with this type of photography, but
what's tripping me out about these pics that we've just been looking at is, and this is something that I know for sure has been difficult for me, is just kind of accepting that you will spend a shitload of time to get a perfect pose on a blurry ass figure. I mean, look at that. I mean, like the Donatello, like that hand placement, like the way the head, like all four of those figures back there look great, and they're all blurry, and it's like you kind of have to let that go, I guess, like for the sake of the art, you know, for the piece to really come through, you kind of have to just like let some shit be blurry. Damn.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, I mean, if he wanted to shoot that way, it was all like in focus and shit, he could definitely play with his settings and do that. But you know, it was kind of meant to just focus in on whoever that was in the front.
It was, Michelangelo. But and obviously all intentional. And then like with this piece right over here, like everything's a lot more in focus. Really.
Let's take a peek at that right there. That's my man Matthew Cohen at Shooting the Galaxy on Instagram. I always fuss with him in the group. Not really fuss with him, but you know, a big part of ACBA is doing things tangibly, 100% tangible. However you see it in person is how you, or however you see it on camera, on film is how you would see it in person. A lot of ACBA is just like a lot of illusions, a lot of tricks and things to kind of like hide the way you do stuff, but do it where you don't have to digitally add in or remove anything. So Matthew is a great artist, and I can't take anything away from him. But this is definitely shot. You know, there's some
those feet are,
things,
yeah.
you know,
the feet is what, yeah. I didn't see it at first, but now that you mention it, I'm looking at the feet, and that's, you can't possibly have those figures standing like that.
right. You know, and he didn't even have to exaggerate it like that, where every kind of foot is alternating and kind of in the same exact kind of pose. He could have put some down and like, you know, he could have played with that a little bit. But again, they look like they all in lockstep walking. So it does look very good as sort of like this sort of still motion piece, like, you know,
right. For this particular situation, you have all troops moving together. It makes sense that they would, you know, yeah, they would be in step like
exactly,
that.
exactly. So yeah, this is really good. And a fun fact about Matt is that I don't know if you remember or if you've ever been, but there was this exhibit near Times Square called Gulliver's Gate, I believe, and it was like this little miniature or these little miniature dioramas of like well-known places across the globe, basically. Like, you know, they had a display of Japan, they had one in Germany, I guess, they had something for New York, the Brooklyn Bridge, and it was just these little miniature, really, really detailed displays, basically. And he got to work with them and shoot inside this big ass like displays that they had. And he took like a King Kong figure in there and a Giant Man and like, you know, a couple of different, you know, things like that that could scale with those little kind of miniature worlds and shit like that. And he did like a whole little series of taking some pictures and stuff like that. He posted them in the group. We featured quite a few of them on the ACBA Instagram and shit like that. But again, that is another thing that has come out of all of this. A lot of people that have gotten into this that have made it lucrative for them, that have been able to eat off of toy photography, off of ACBA, off of the like, you know, the seeds that we planted 10, 12 years ago, fucking around on a tabletop with some figures on YouTube. You know what I'm saying? So it has really
13 years now.
Yeah, cultivated, you know, a lot of artists to come out, and again, for the toy companies to be taking these people seriously and saying, you know what, I want to hire you for a campaign to promote this new product that I have coming out, and like, yo, it's wonderful, man. It's wonderful.
You know, it was a huge step that I'll never forget is when you were able, when I think you had worked out a thing with Forbidden Planet.
Yep.
Get that whole ACBA set up in the store. I thought that was so sick. I thought that was like, oh wow, this is a different level right over here.
Yeah, you know, in those early days, that's really what I wanted ACBA to be, was like a conglomerate of like artists that could do things like that for store windows and for setups and all of that type of stuff for corporate events and this and that and whatever the case may be. But I didn't even realize that it could be what it is now on this end of the spectrum. I wasn't even really thinking that deep into this side of it, especially as it relates to the photography. The photography aspect of it didn't really come into real play until we migrated over to Facebook and shit. Like, you know, I was thinking more like exhibits and like things that we could do, you know, that can still be done too, you know, but
yeah, right. And back then it was like there was still emphasis on a lot of like ACBA with video, which is now a lot more rare. But I, you know, people still do it. It's just not as common, right?
Right. Exactly. You know, we still explore it when we do the ACBA World Tournament, which is video based. But you know, because of the advancements and just the photography side of it, it's just that has been a little more prevalent. You know, video takes quite a bit more time to go through as opposed to just setting up and taking a shot. You know, even though that could take a long time too. But yeah, this is Iqbal _1275. He works with a lot of like 3 3/4 inch stuff sometimes. These right here are Mythic Legions figures, which are fucking phenomenal. I know you know that.
Yeah.
But yeah, just you know, 3 of their sort of skull figures, just a nice little. This is what I would call a sort of like portrait style display. A little grouping, little team shot here, and yeah, this looks great. Looks like he's probably utilizing some sort of atmosphere, aerosol, or some type of smoke or something there to give it a
Oh
look. Kind of
yeah, I love when I see people do that.
yeah,
I want to get a fog machine just so I
yeah. You know what?
can get things
You know
going
what?
like
That
that.
fucking atmosphere aerosol irritates the shit out of me. I can't actually mess with it too much. So it's probably better and safer to get a fog machine or some type of dry ice situation or something.
God, these look so sick. We don't have time to go through everything. I know you have to
Yeah,
go.
I mean, I just want to say, listen, come out and join the ACBA Facebook group. We have actually quite a few groups on Facebook for every type of artist, basically, in terms of toy photography. So the ACBA Facebook group, but there's also a group called Dial Structure, which is all about building dioramas and learning the tricks of the trade as far as that's concerned. We have our plastic and paint group, which is sort of like a group to just kind of kick back and just hang out with some of the people in the community. And then we have the Grind, which is a group that is like very structured and specific on how to be a better artist and how to get your shit right before you actually post it to the Facebook group or post it to Instagram or whatever the case may be. So
I'm gonna get a post ready because I submitted a request to join that group. Before I post anything ACBA again, I'm gonna, not that I did anything that I thought. I mean, it's rare that I post on the group page because like it's rare that I get to put that much time into it to where I feel like it's worthy of going up there. But next time I do it, it's going to be, I'm going to go through there first and refine even more.
Yeah, do it. I'm sure the people in there would love to see you in there too, man.
I'm especially inspired by Century. I have to give
Yeah,
Century.
Century's been doing this fucking thing. Shout out to Century Productions, at Century Productions on Instagram. But yeah, man, follow the ACBA Instagram. It's at Articulated Comic Book Art, and come join us in the groups if you want to, you know, learn some of the tricks of the trade, or even if you just want to spectate, if you just want to look, if you just want to go on the ACBA Instagram right now and literally just scroll through like we were doing, you'd be fucking amazed. It's so wonderful, and it might be a side of the figures that you haven't even realized that you were missing out on. Maybe you just been collecting and setting your shit up on a shelf and didn't even really know that this whole other world existed. So come out, look.
Awesome. Sounds great. You're heading off to Toy Migos, right?
Yes, I'm heading over to Toy Migos. I'm doing a 2-for-1 tonight. Russ, love you, bro. It was, as always, it's good hanging out with you, man.
Likewise, love you too, my brother.
Gotta
And
get you back on our show too.
yes, I would love to come back. And also, I have an after party.
We got a lot more shit to talk about anyway, so I got to get with you. Maybe we got to do this 2 weeks in a row because we got to talk politics and all of that shit. We got to do it.
Fuck, you want to get into politics? I don't know about the politics, but I want it. Well, I mean, maybe, but I want it, or maybe action figure politics.
All right, we'll get it. We'll get together.
We'll get
Let me know.
into the real politics stuff. Yeah, I want get me going on some shit that, you know.
Yeah, we gotta talk about that. Let's do a part 2. Let's kind of dive into some of the other shit too, though, for real.
All right, yeah, and we didn't even talk about Spider-Man, so yeah, let's do it. All right, after party.
Yeah, we'll talk.
Right, well,
if you're still going after, I'll get back with you.
All right, sounds good. All right, thanks a lot. Thanks everybody coming through. Catch you guys later. Peace. After party right now for ShartimusPrime members and patrons. So if you're a member, patron, look for the link. I'll set it up right over there. Thanks again, Boognice10, and I will catch you guys next week. We might have Boog on for 2 weeks in a row. We'll see. All right, catch you guys later. Peace.